Hi, I'm Marcel. I'm a technical writer for pipeline authoring and pipeline execution. And I want to talk about how we revamped this page. Right now, what we're looking at is the version of it in 12.10. So this is the actual doc as it was at that time. And it was the CI/CD pipeline configuration reference. So at this time, you can tell that it's quite a long page by just the size of the scroll bar over here on the right. I'm moving very little over here, but there's a lot. So there's a lot of content on this one page that we have to think about. If you look at the table of contents on the right, you can see that there's a lot of variety of content here. We have some things that are keywords. We have some things that it just seems to be regular expressions or how to do something with a keyword. And it's all mixed together in this one page. We've also got, if we look at this table, you might wonder, why is script the first keyword? It starts with S, then we have image, then we have services, then before script. So the sorting of this table and then the sorting over here in the table of contents, which matches the content within the page below as well. And yeah, and so these are some of the main problems, but some other problems outside of the context of the page itself is that this is actually or was the most visited page within GitLab.com. And when I say GitLab.com, I also mean about.gitlab.com. At times in certain months, this actually gets more visits, or this got more visits than the handbook or the main page in the handbook. Not overall, just like for individual pages. We also heard from users that they like this page. Despite all the problems, they said, I can just go to a single page and I can do Control F or Command F and I can find what I'm looking for in that page. And underneath all of this, many different teams and groups use this page for their features, for documenting things with pipeline authoring, pipeline execution, release, package, secure, all use the CI/CD reference. So that there's a lot of things to consider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump forward in time to, oops, where was it? Maybe I'll go back here to 13.12 and to show a lot of the work that went on between those two releases, that you can see that some things have improved. We've improved the sorting of the table. The visual style of this page has changed, but that wasn't related to this page. That was just the overall doc site improved. We also did a lot of work to try to improve the table of contents, to improve the content in here, but you can still see that there's different things. Workflow is a keyword. Switch between, that's actually kind of like it's something you can do with a keyword. So there's still a lot of things mixed. We also renamed this. This is actually now index.html. The old 12.10 one was a README file. So lots of work happened before we ever even really revamped the page. Then our staff technical writer, Suzanne Selhorn, introduced to the team the concept of documentation topic types, which we call CTRT, which are concepts, tasks, reference, and troubleshooting. And when we look at this page, we want to think, what kind of page is it? What are we presenting to people? Is it troubleshooting? No. Is it concept? Is it teaching people what is a CI/CD pipeline? Not really. We would consider this a reference page. And so we want to try to focus that page to be just reference information. Right now, what we're working on in the technical writing team is identifying specific tasks on different pages and documenting tasks in a certain way, such that here's your task, like create a widget, delete a widget, do this thing, and here's what you need to be able to do it, and here's how to do it, step 1, 2, 3. And we had a lot of stuff like that in this page, like switch between these pipelines. That's a task. So the introduction of this made it really easy for us to identify what should be on that reference page and what shouldn't be on that reference page. So for some quick examples of references that we have right now, we have a GraphQL reference page. This page is completely auto-generated. Technical writers don't do anything with it. It looks at the code. There's descriptions in the code that technical writers help with, but there's a task that just runs through all the code and it generates this massive, massive file. It seems bad, but all the information is there. It's 100% accurate all the time. We also have API reference documentation. This is entirely manual, but it is very good reference information because it's standardized. Everything looks the same. You can see we have list, and then we have, it tells you what it does. It gives you the kind of the standard API information. There's a table, there's a curl, there's an example. Then you can see it's repeated. We've got this, we've got the table, we've got the curl, we've got the example, and it repeats and it repeats and it repeats. So people know they can scan through and they can see, and they can very quickly find the information because they know what to expect. So keeping this in mind, we thought, well, how would we improve this page? Well, we're probably going to be closer to the regular API, not GraphQL API page, because we want it to be, it can't really be auto-generated just yet, but we do want to have repeatable patterns to make it easy to scan through the page. But we don't want tasks mixed in as well, because if you throw in tasks in the middle, it's not really scannable anymore, because you're going to scroll and then you're going to come into something that looks quite different. So the step one was to identify what were the patterns in the reference that we could repeat. What was the information, or not the information, but what kind of information was repeated throughout the page, and what we need to show people regularly. And we sat down and we had some calls and some issues, and we figured out, and we started by creating a style guide. So before revamping the page, we actually created a style that we expected would work for the page. And we said, this is how you want to do the headers. This is how you want to structure the language. This is some examples of the inputs that you're going to talk about, the keywords, and have examples within the page to show. Then after that, we applied it to a few keywords. So we took this page, we're on, the 13.12, and then we just started one at a time. We did, I think it was only an except. And you can see how this one is much smaller, and they all look very, very similar. We have a keyword type, we have possible inputs. In this case, we have a table. There's not always tables, but then we have an example, we have additional details. And then the next one, we have a keyword type, inputs, example, related topics, keyword type, inputs, examples, additional details, related topics. And these are all like cross-linked. So we started having these repeatable patterns, and it seemed to work, but there were some things that needed to be tweaked. So the next step was actually to come back to the reference and improve it. This is what it looks like now, but it took a couple iterations to get to the style guide that we have now. Once we had the style guide in a better state based on our experience with the first sample keywords, we then created an epic and say, let's do all the keywords. It's going to take time. It's not necessarily going to be fun, but it's going to be an improvement to the most important doc on the site and the most viewed page. And it's going to help not just us, but it's going to help contributors use the page. It's going to help maintainers update the page. And we just worked through each keyword, merge request by merge request. We also brought in other technical writers from release, from testing, to help out with their keywords, with their experience. And eventually we got through it. And then what we did after that was update the style guide again, because we still learned things through that process, and we could improve the style guide as well. and then do another pass across the page with everything that we learned and try to standardize and try to make sure that everything was kind of with one voice and one style. And let's go to the final page. So now we can go and we can see what it looks like now. Perhaps, there we go. So the visual style is going to stay the same because it's still the same site. But if you look on the side now, you can see how much easier it is to scan, how everything is just a keyword. There's a couple of things. We've got dynamic environments, but we do have keywords, keywords, keywords all the way through. I can pick one at random and it's going to look like every other keyword. We've got a keyword type, an input. Sorry, excuse me. An example, some more details, because sometimes, you know, there just needs to be more details and we've got a section for that. Some keywords don't have any additional details. Some don't have related topics, but if you need to link to another page. And so all of this page now is much smaller than it was before. If anyone wants to add a new keyword, they can copy another keyword and just delete the content and then fill it up again. Very, very similar to our API reference docs, because that's what people do for the API reference. They just copy it and then they change the language. There's also lots of crosslinks now that we were missing before. So if I'm looking at AfterScript and I need a bit more information, I can go to, I can find crosslinks for those tasks. The tasks used to be listed directly under here, but now I can go to this crosslink and I can see the task, how to set a default, how to split long commands. So when I come here, I'm actually presented with other tasks, and I'll learn more from this page that is telling me how to do different things that I might not have found in the old page. In the future, now that this epic is finally finished, it took a long time and a lot of work, but in the future, we still want to think about, how about these subkeys within here? Some of them are required, some of them are not required. Should the required ones be at the top and optional ones be below? Should it be sorted alphabetically anyways? Still questions to answer. What about inputs? How do we talk about variables? Because variables kind of apply to all of the keywords. And GitLab versions, because in different, let's say GitLab 14 dot something, I might find. Yeah, so for example, in additional details, in this version and later, you can do this. In 14.0 and older, you have to do it a different way. Is this the best way to do it? It works for now, but maybe there's a better way. And that's where we are right now. And out of curiosity, just today, I checked the page view numbers, and this page has nosedived in the number of page views. And I was shocked. And I was like, what have I done? Have I ruined this page? And then I realized people were probably visiting the other page, the old page, trying in vain to find the information and not necessarily finding what they needed. And everyone was going to the one page, but now we have multiple other pages, and probably the people who are coming to this reference are actually referring to this page as a reference. And if they have a task to do, they're going to the task. Like, for example, we have a new choose when jobs run page that is now holding a lot of those tasks. Run a manual job, protect a manual job. So this page, the views went up. So I was really surprised, but it does seem to make sense to me. And it was a lot of hard work, but yeah, it was very valuable to the whole CI/CD team. That's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Marcel. We have a few questions from Vithika and Nadia. So Vithika, do you want to go first?
Sorry, I was too lost writing a new comment. Yeah, I think you mentioned this already in your presentation, that it is the answer to this question. And I meant to ask, like, is the intention with putting like defined structures, is also to seek more community contributions?
It definitely wasn't to seek more contributions, but it was definitely to make contribution easier. So we that's not something that ever came up in the conversations, and probably it should have, because I definitely find it easier when community contributors send an MR my way now. It's like, oh yeah, boom, this is in the right place, save, done, or merge. Or I can easily say, that's great information, but it doesn't match the page, it goes over there. And the contributor will say, oh, you're right, I can see how this content matches the content in the other page. So it has made it easier, but that is probably something we should have thought of when we were talking about it.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I'm just mind blown by the amount of work that you have done, and knowing the impact this documentation has on the pipeline authoring experience, I kind of feel like it's one of the biggest usability improvements that we've made to the pipeline authoring workflow for our users. So yeah, thank you so much. And also very excited to see how we can make it work with the pipeline editor drawer, because we have plans to make the syntax reference accessible from the drawer, and having it standardized will make it much easier for us to pull in that information.
Yeah, if for example, if you highlight a keyword within the pipeline editor, I could imagine having something, if it'll come up here, I could imagine typing in a keyword like, you know, type script, and then have it highlight this and have like a question mark or something. And then this would actually just link to the anchor for script, and it would send you right there. That, you know, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's exactly the plan. I think we even have mockups for that already. The same thing with the question mark.
So after what Nadia mentioned, Marcel, I think, and what you mentioned about the views of this page nosediving after this improvement, I think one way to measure the impact of this change could be tracking like the number of successful pipelines that are created, because I think it has a very direct impact on pipeline authoring experience.
Yeah, we're tracking that generally as that's the metric that the pipeline authoring team tracks. So I don't know if there was an uptick or anything like that, but we could certainly kind of look at the graph and see if there's any change that coincides with the rollout of these changes.
We also did some research with like some general tasks for creating pipelines, and it wasn't specifically about documentation, but we could follow the users as we told them, you want to do this, and then they would go to the documentation to figure it out, and you could see how long they spent on the documentation trying to find that. So perhaps in the new research that we do in the future, it might be to see how fast do they find that information now. I think that might be one of the best ways, because people who don't, it's hard to track people who don't use a thing anymore. Yeah, that's definitely something that we should track though.
Cool. Thanks for that, Marcel. Thanks for everyone contributing to asking questions and everything. And that concludes this session of the UX Showcase.